Hi everyone, welcome back to Tough and Tarmac, the SACU official podcast, with me Rachel and our host Callum. This season on Tough and Tarmac, we've been speaking to some of Scotland's top riders from across the motorcycle disciplines to find out a bit about their riding experiences and their favourite moments of their sporting career.
This week's guest is Mr. Kevin Murray. Kevin is the founder and the main coach of the Ride Off-Road Scotland programme. He speaks a bit about that. He's got a previous experience in trials, motocross, and in enduro, where he's experienced success in all those different things, and in grass tracking as well early in his career. Kevin's a really cool guy. It was really interesting speaking to him about his different approaches that he's got to his riding and to his coaching, and importantly speaks to us a bit about his journey towards the Dakar Rally in 2023, which sounds really, really exciting, and I'm sure you'll be really excited to hear about it as well. So I hope you enjoyed the interview. So today we're joined by Mr. Kevin Murray. How are you, Kevin?
Hi, yes, I'm absolutely loving the sun out there. It's great, and it's been a good week for riding bikes.
Oh, absolutely. It's we were just off the back of the Scottish Championship, the first round of the Scottish Road Race Championship, and it was an absolute scorcher all weekend. Everybody came back home with sunburn, and after a really good weekend's racing, it was a really, really good opening round for me and a really good opening round for everybody. The meeting ran really smooth, and the weather definitely helped that. So
there's a good vibe around racing at the moment with the sunshine being out and coming out of lockdown. It's really good.
Oh, absolutely. With these restrictions easing, like having 1,000 fans back at Knockhill as well, it was absolutely amazing. Riding around and on your cool down laps, you are getting big claps and big waves. So with it opening back up, I can't wait to see what it's going to be like when there's more people in. So anyway, we'll start talking about yourself. So can you tell us a bit about you, what discipline you ride in, and how you got started here?
Yes, so I guess I was lucky enough when I was just a tot to be living on a farm, and my family got me a little Honda 50, and I used to just ride up and down the farm road, and that was when I was 3, and I just absolutely loved it. But I had no interest in racing. I was just always playing on the bike, and I liked doing laps on the track. So I did a lot of laps, and my dad was racing. He represented Scotland in the ISDE in 1990, and I was a little bit sort of starstruck by the racing aspect of it then. I just turned 10, and I asked my dad if I could go and race. So I started out in motocross when I was 11 on a little CR80, and I didn't do too badly. I had a couple of good years, and then we went to do the British Championships, and all the way through till I was 16, and it was difficult money-wise. So I decided, for looking at career prospects, I decided to join the army at that point. So I stopped racing, and then those guys that I met in the army, and some of my friends there that were into bikes, they were all into enduro. So that's when I started riding enduro. I was probably 18 years old then. And so I did enduro all the way through till I was mid-30s, and then I retired to focus on my engineering job. And a few years went by on that, and I missed it so much when I moved back to Scotland, and I started my own riding school, Ride Off-Road Scotland, and here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing that's kind of become apparent over the course of the podcast we've already recorded, is that people always seem to start in one sport, one discipline, and then end up moving around. Or if they move from the discipline they started with, they end up moving back or whatever. There's not very many people who we've spoken to that only stick with the one thing. Everybody's done a little bit of motocross or a little bit of road racing and moved back or whatever it is. So it's cool how they all kind of interlink in between each other. And obviously, like you say, I mean, you've kind of now your career is teaching people how to ride bikes and giving them that start into the sport. So could you tell us a little bit about your beginning years in the sport, obviously in motocross, and then moving into enduro when you joined the army?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's quite funny. My dad was quite a keen coach, and when I was doing my training, even before I'd started racing, he'd have me on the stopwatch and he'd be looking for, you know, lap times to be identical every time round, and would be pushing for like a 20-minute moto. And then we'd do little training drills and skills. We'd set out braking markers and all that stuff. And if I was doing something wrong, like I was sitting down too much, he took my seat off, and off we go. And I did a 20-minute motor with no seat. And then, you know, I'm using my back brake too much, disconnect it. So no back brake for 20 minutes. Using the clutch too much, disconnect it. And he'd set the braking marker, and he'd say, look, he would do demos. He was a good coach, did the demo, and he was braking plenty of time for the corner and then around and away. So I'd go and try and copy him. While I was heading round on the sort of sighting lap, he'd move the marker. I didn't find out about that until, you know, later years when we were in the pub chatting about it. You know, he's moved the marker sort of 3 meters closer to the corner, and I'm still making the corner, and he's like totally amazed that I've actually managed it without crashing. But yeah, really funny talking about it later with him in the pub. So he got me to a pretty good level, and I managed to win a couple of Scottish championships, and then we went a couple of year campaign doing all the British championship rounds, and raced with a lot of really top class riders coming through, and those guys went on to you know, some of them are world champions and things. Definitely a few British champions in there. Some of the guys moved on to the superbikes, and, you know, lots of different disciplines. So it's been nice to follow their careers while I've moved over to the enduro world, and had a bit of success in the enduro world. So my first year was an absolute disaster. I just had coming from motocross, I was 100% all the time. In enduro, you need to be riding around about 90%, stay sort of just below the limit, and otherwise you get into trouble like I did. And I spent quite a lot of time in hospital that first year, and then I had a couple of years off riding, just get my head around it a bit and let my body heal. So obviously a sharp learning curve on that one, but obviously got the hang of it, came back and raced at the top level of enduro for a lot of years.
Well, see, the thing is, coming through, changing disciplines, you know, starting from such a young age. I mean, it's a similar story to what everybody's kind of told. You know, it's something that's been in the family, or, you know, you've started from when you were very, very young, and then you've worked all the way up through. You know, like from there till now, obviously there's a huge difference in, number one, what discipline you're in, number two, what level you've been through, and then obviously your coaching role with Ride Off Road Scotland now, and then the prospects of the Dakar. Do you want to tell people a bit about that? Yeah,
really excited to be on a journey to Dakar in 2023. And I'd always been a massive fan of the Dakar, following it from quite a young age as well. It's kind of crazy because it's one of those events that the non sort of motorsport guy will tune into, just because it's so dramatic and it's so exciting. So it gets so much coverage, and you know, such a high profile event. So I always enjoyed coaching. So with my time in the army, I'd come from a racing background and a sort of winning championships, and a lot of the guys in the army were just starting out. So I took on a bit of a coaching role, even at the age of sort of 19, all the way through. And then I managed to, when I left the army, managed to get a job with Simon Pavey, who runs BMW Off-Road Skills in Wales. But he's a 9-time Dakar finisher. So, you know, really good to work with him and tap into his information. Really clever man, and really, he's got some sort of unconventional coaching techniques that you know, they're just really good at communicating with the students. So that's the kind of the stuff that I learned from him. But then as I became a coach myself and started up here, one of the students said to me, "I'd like to do the Dakar Rally. Can you teach me?" And this guy, Tim, his name is, he's a complete novice on the motocross track. He would, he wouldn't be able to finish a 10-minute race without a crash at that stage. He was, his skills were just that he didn't have the skill set. So it seemed like an impossible task. But we had a long chat and we decided that we would go for it, and that I would have to go with him just to keep him right. And that quickly evolved into us both racing. So it came about in a quite a funny way, but really exciting, and been exciting to see the progress that Tim's made, and that's helped motivate me to stay on top of my game. So although I retired from racing in 2017, started up again this year, and I'm actually sitting second in the Scottish Championship at the moment, and building my fitness up and hopefully building up my riding speed so that when we go out to do the qualifier for Dakar, I'll be in a strong position.
That's, it's like it's such a good start to the year, especially with the prospects going towards Dakar in 2023. I think the 2023 is obviously the end goal for you at the moment. So what's your goals for like the next few seasons leading up to that? Is it just to improve the fitness? The Dakar Rally is probably one of the most grueling motorsport things in the world, really. I mean, it must be the fitness levels needed for that, and the capability of yourself and the bike together. It must be a huge feat to try and even imagine at the moment. So what's the plan and what's the goals for the next few seasons?
Yeah, so absolutely, just to take advantage of all the sort of the free things. So for me, I'm out with my motorbike 2 or 3 times a week minimum, and most of that is doing demos and the slow speed stuff, or just telling people how to use the clutch and the throttle. But I can take advantage of having the bike out there. I can maybe say to them, right, you're going to have a break and a drink of water, and while they're doing that, I'll get in a really intense 6 or 10 minute session on the track, and then it's a chance for them to see what you can do when you're really pushing on a bike as well. And then talking to them all the time, the range of customers I get the complete novice guys that are just learning to ride, but I also coaching some top level guys, and get to speak about the fitness aspect and the physicality. Not just fitness, but how your body works and how you're moving around on the bike. And by explaining that and talking about it, it's helped me to develop my own physicality, and actually my riding's changed quite a bit as well since I'm doing this coaching. So I think really good way to learn something is to teach it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a coach myself in my discipline, and I'm at uni studying sports coaching. So everybody's got their own different wee methods and stuff, and that's the one thing that I've found out myself as well, is that the way that I learn something better is to try and explain it to somebody else. So the fact that you're saying that as well, I think sometimes us kind of, if you want to call us elite riders, at the kind of top of the top level, you can focus sometimes on the little things, where sometimes I think that if you do the basics properly, the other things come much easier. So sometimes silly things like throttle control, clutch control, being nice on the brakes, whatever it may be, it makes the little tenths of a second come much easier.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And when you're trying to explain it to lots of different people, you experiment a little bit yourself. So you try different ways to use the brake or use the throttle, and like silly things like riding one-handed. One of the training drills we do is to brake hard when you've only got one hand on the bars. And of course, to explain that and to break it down to someone, you've got to practice it yourself.
Absolutely. And, you know, like that sort of like challenge to yourself, it sometimes kind of makes it a wee bit more fun as well. You know what I mean? Like if you're just going out and doing motos, or, you know, just going out and doing the same thing every other day, you know, it gets a wee bit boring. So changing it up a wee bit and challenging yourself for those different little silly things can sometimes make your training a bit more fun as well, can't it?
Absolutely, and I'd recommend that for any of the guys that are training towards something. Is always to remember to have that bit of time just for fun, and that little bit of play riding, experimenting, because you sometimes learn learn more when you're actually just having fun.
You know, that was very much like myself as well. There was one lap on a cool down lap where I was being silly and tried to get my elbow down, and it made me hang off the bike so much, and I was like, oh, that actually worked really quite well. You know what I mean? And then I started moving my body weight over the bike more to get it to turn a little bit easier, and that was just through mucking around without, do you know what I mean? That was literally all it was. I was mucking around on a cool down lap, and it changed my body position on the bike for the rest of the time after that. So definitely, you know, sometimes being silly, doing a bit of goon riding, whatever it is, you know what I mean, it can sometimes work in your favor. So what looking forward to the Dakar, and also kind of your previous parts of your career, what kind of challenges have you faced so far, and what challenges have you got going ahead towards the Dakar?
Yeah. Okay. So the big challenge that I had, was sort of just mentioned it earlier, was that when I rode motocross, it was, you know, on a motocross race, it's a short 15-minute plus 2 laps or whatever the length it is, and you're pushing on, you know, 100%, every corner, every straight, every obstacle, and I took that across to the enduro world, which if I had the skill level, it might have been okay, but I just hadn't experienced a lot of that terrain. So I think building up that skill base, I think the biggest struggle is actually being patient enough that you're not trying to get ahead of yourself. Because I just wanted to hit everything absolutely flat out, and it was obviously the wrong way to do it. So I had those 2 years off, and I came back and rode like I was doing everything steady, and I won the expert championship that year, just because I was accurate, I was deliberate in everything that I did, and I stayed within my limit. So that was, you know, that was quite an interesting sort of insight for me at the time, and I took that approach going forward. And I just seemed to, without pushing me on my limit, I just seemed to improve year on year after that, which was really cool.
Sometimes doing that, you know, like just slowing down, sometimes helps so much. Like, you know, sometimes the same thing as what I was saying about, you know, just focusing on the basics. Like if you just slow yourself down a bit, don't push that far. I mean, it's obviously different in motocross to enduro anyway, but for instance, like you say, motocross, you're like flat out every single corner, it'll go along every straight, trying to get to the next bit as fast as you can. And it's the same in road racing. And last weekend was the first time that I got a PB, and the lap that I got my PB, I was just taking everything nice and slowly, and it just came together. And it was so easy after that I was like, why have I been trying so hard this whole time? It could have, if I just chilled out and relaxed a little bit, it would have been there the whole time. So definitely just taking that wee second to, you know, have a wee breath, take everything nice and slow. Depending on what situation you're in, of course you can't, but you know, if you've got the option to, sometimes it's nice to just take a deep breath, slow down, and take it nice and easy, and it eventually comes to you, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah. And it's crazy. Like I say, sometimes you know that you're going to be the fastest one there on the day. You know that, so everything's just relaxed, and you're just hitting all your marks, and it's a really, really good feeling when I think that's when you kind of feel like you're you know, part of the bike, and everything's just working well. You really connect with it.
Absolutely.
Back to your question. So going forward for the Dakar, you know, the challenge for that is I've never done a rally, and I haven't used a road book. I've started to get familiar with the road book now, and I'm looking through that. And but the next stage is to try and read a road book while doing maybe 80 miles per hour or whatever it is, that, down a gravel road. You're absolutely the top guys, they're carrying a lot of speed and still navigating at the same time. Maybe lower down the ranks, the guys are taking their time a little bit more, and I like to think I'll be somewhere in the middle. Hopefully, that for me is going to be staying with the sort of riders that are in my kind of level. I don't really want to drop back. You risk getting tangled up with other traffic, getting caught in dust, all that stuff. So I've found out at the ISDEs, if you can stay with guys that are your level, that the day just flows so much better. You can concentrate better and just ride at your own level without getting tangled up in traffic and all the other issues that go with that.
It's going to be such a fun journey, I think, for you guys especially. I mean, there's 4 of you, isn't there? 4 of you that are going to do it all together. Yeah,
there's 4 in the team at the moment, and 2. So there'll be 2 mechanics for the 4 riders, the support element's a really big part of it. They're the guys that'll keep us going, and so I think we're lucky at this stage to have a really good team. The foundations are all there. Of course, another challenge is funding it all. We've got a plan in place. We're approaching it almost like a business plan. So we're picking off the sort of the biggest issues at the moment, which are and stuff that's free as well. So the biggest issues have been obviously riding technique for Tim, never ridden off road. So he's had a year riding now, and he's done finished 5 Scottish Championship events. So we're on a good trajectory with that, and we're aiming to sort of increase the intensity of our riding now. And for me, I've been in a desk job for 3 or 4 years. And in fact, 7 years really. But since I stopped riding, my activity levels really dropped, and I put on weight, and I was less mobile. So really nice for me to start combating that. Up my training schedule, and just ticking off all these little boxes, and suddenly we've gone from a big list of actually how are we going to get to Dakar, and now we're like, yeah, we're a lot closer. So it's looking good.
Absolutely, and like you say, I mean, funding in our sport is always important. A lot of things are family funded, but something as big as the Dakar, I mean, the cost of the bike, just for the navigation kit and all that, it must be a crazy cost. But like going forward then from now till like maybe 5 years, in 5 years time, obviously I'm assuming that the goal is to have completed the Dakar as a given, but maybe 2024, 2025, what's the plan for that?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed goal really, with I'll have to retire from racing again at some point, but I would like to do a little bit more, and I think part of the racing for me is where I get to show by example. So there's no shortcuts in racing. You put a lot of work in, and if you put enough work in, if you put more work in than the next guy, you're going to start moving up, and it's almost as simple as that. So for me, I want to show that if you use the right approach, you do get the results. And I think if I can do that with a little bit on enduro, maybe a little bit on motocross, I'd like to do a beach race again. I've done a few beach races; they were really great fun. I've still got the physical endurance, and I've still got a love for riding. So I think I can sort of go on to do some of those nice events over the next few years. But also while I'm doing that is building the business so that I can help get more people into the sport. And I'd love to see this, enduro and motocross grow in Scotland, and as well as the road racing stuff. I think the off-road stuff is a great feeder into the road racing side of it. I think there's quite a lot of guys will start out in motocross and move across to the tarmac. Sometimes it goes the other way, but not very often, I think. But if we can build it up, then that'll help me to to spend more time around bikes, and it'll get more people into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, I mean, the crossover is so mad. Like usually, like for myself, I started in mini motos with the Scottish Mini Moto Championship. Jumped onto a motocross bike to learn how to work gears and like work a clutch and things like that, and then went back to road racing because that was my end goal. But I mean, like you say, the motocross and enduro and everything like that, it's such a good feeder into all the different disciplines. Do you want to speak quickly about Ride Off Road Scotland, like what it is you guys do, and about how people can get in contact with you if they do fancy it?
Sure. Yeah. So I was engineer in the army, and I carried on with the engineering stuff right up until just before the pandemic, when I decided to start the riding school. And the idea was that I would be able to offer coaching for guys that already race, but then also to have a fleet of bikes and offer a riding experience for those that have never done it before, and everything in between. So, living in England, riding is just so accessible there. You've got lots of local motocross tracks and clubs, and then you've also got the green lane side for the guys that want to just do the trail riding and get out on the bikes. And then up here in Scotland, because of the land use laws, you need the landowner's permission for anywhere you go. And a lot of the landowners don't want to give it because that then makes them liable for any injuries or any accidents. It was like, where do we go on our bikes legally up here? There's nowhere to go. So I started speaking to landowners to see what their attitudes are, and actually, a lot of them were quite open to it. If you have the insurance in place, they're happy for you to use the land. So I thought, well, I'm able to offer that to people, as well as my experience coaching, and it's put me in a really strong position to offer that. So I think now I've got 19 venues we've got that we can use throughout Scotland, and we've got a fleet of bikes. So and all the kit, protective clothing, so people can literally just turn up and ride, and even with those with no experience, and they can get a little bit of a jump start if they want to get into the sport. Like yesterday, we had 5 guys that had never ridden before, and at the end of the day, they all spoke about which motocross or enduro bike they're going to go and get afterwards. So and then hopefully, 1 or 2 of them will go on to compete, and if it works out like that, every time I'm introducing new people to the sport, then the numbers at the events will grow. There'll be more people looking for coaching, and then they'll go on to bigger events. We'll get more publicity, and that'll drive more people to come and do the experience days. And I think the whole thing will just help the sport grow, and it'll obviously benefit the business as well, and hopefully can get more people into the coaching side. So I can see it, growing quite well, and especially at the moment, the website traffic's been really good, and the emails and the amount of contacts and requests that we're getting are really good. So we've got a Facebook page as well, just Ride Off Road Scotland. So if anybody wants to get involved, then just get on the Facebook page or send us an email. We've got a contact form on the website, rideoffroadscotland.co.uk. So really easy to get in amongst it and get started.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like you say, I think the biggest fear for anybody coming into any of the disciplines in our sport is the startup costs. I mean, even to try it, you need to pay all this money to get a bike, to get to get all the protective gear. You kind of take all that out for people to at least give it a go. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. And if they do, then that cost isn't quite such a sore one because you know that you're going to enjoy it anyway. So no, it's definitely a really, really good thing. And I also see that it's going to get loads of people into the sport and into all the disciplines, like you say. I mean, the basics of learning how to use the clutch and the throttle and the brake. I mean, it's the same in every single discipline. So no, it's definitely a really, really good thing. What would you say? I'm going to ask you this as a kind of two-part question. So, what's your biggest motivation as a rider, and then biggest motivation as a coach, and then for after that, how has the coronavirus, like you said, you started up just before the pandemic. So, how has the coronavirus had an effect on your business and on your training for going towards the Dakar?
Okay, so I think you got 4 questions in there, but I'll try and work through. So start with the pandemic. So I thought my engineering contract stopped in the November, and I was working as a contractor, so I kind of jumped between jobs anyway. And I thought at that point, my CV was fresh and I could have probably gone straight into another engineering role. But I had everything in place for Ride Off-Road Scotland, apart from the bikes. I just had one bike at that time. So I decided to launch the website and get started with it. And straight away, the inquiries coming in were just mind-blowing. It was like, I ended up with bookings from Australia, Germany, the Netherlands. Guys wanted to come over from Italy and ride in Scotland. That was really cool. So I had group bookings. So it gave me the confidence to sort of push on with it. And I had bookings all through that summer, which, we got to March and everything just went on lockdown. So it was all cancelled. But I think because I'd had so much interest and I'd already had a few customers that wanted to keep coming at that stage, and just keep things ticking over. So it gave me the confidence to sort of stick with it. It would have been really easy to go back to an engineering job at that point. But I sort of, I'm really stubborn, so once I've started something, I like to go through with it. So just kept working away, doing the one-to-one and the smaller stuff. We had a couple of months out of lockdown, August, September, got really busy. Again, it gave me enough confidence to say, right, we are going to make this work. And at that point, we didn't really know the pandemic was going to go on for as long as it has. So it's been nerve-wracking to just try and keep things going. And I was expecting I'm really close to having to sell everything up and just go look for a job in Tesco's just to keep the got 3 kids at home and got the mortgage to pay. And fortunately, my wife's been able to work from home, so she's kept us going. And but it feels like we're through that, and bookings have picked up. And like yesterday was my first group experience day since last September, I think. So really good to have the feeling that we're actually on and we're in business now. So I'm now looking to build the staff team up and get going with that. So really exciting going forward. Yeah. So that's the pandemic part. What was the other questions?
I know I kind of bombarded you there. So the biggest motivation as a rider, and then biggest motivation as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I'm not 100% motivated by results. They're like a nice byproduct. For me on the track, I just like to get things right. So I guess I could say, perfectionist on the riding side of things. I get really upset with myself if I miss a line, or really self-analytical. So I can usually work out if I've missed a line, it's probably not because I've braked too late. It's usually something else I've done. I've got my body in the wrong position, or I've just braked a little hard and locked the front, something like that. And it just can be a bit hard on myself for that side of things. But, that helps the sort of continuous evolution. And hopefully, I feel like I'm still learning, even though I'm 40 now, and I've been racing for 30 years. Still feel like I'm learning and improving. And I think maybe by the end of this year, once my fitness is back up, I'll probably be as fast as I've ever been. So yeah, I think I guess you could say just perfection, striving for perfection on that. That motivates me when I'm on my bike. Just daft stuff like we spoke about, doing those silly the play things. I will play at those training drills, just leaning into acceleration, for example. I'll practice that. I'll go and do it 100 times. Or when I get the bike out the van, I'll go and do a figure of 8 50 times. And before I do any riding, I'll just go and do figure of 8, because I want to get everything right. And I think little things like that just really, really help with the racing. But so as a coach, then it's trying to communicate some of these really, really subtle techniques in an effective way. It's really difficult. How do you communicate? So it's a bit like problem solving, I think. So some people just learn from looking at stuff. Some people, you've got to do it. Some of the guys I'll do when I'm coaching, I'll sit on the bike and I'll let them control the throttle and the clutch. And sometimes that's the way to get it across. So it's just working out how to communicate. So that really, really motivates me. And it's great when you see the pennies dropped and they off they go, and they're absolutely happy as well. They're buzzing with it. So, yeah.
I think that's actually like a really, really good thing, because most of the people we've spoken to already their biggest motivation has been the results, has been the winning. But that kind of intrinsic motivation that you've got, it must have such a good impact on it. Like, a lot of people say, like, oh, if you don't want to win, what's the point in being there? But that's, like you say, that's a byproduct. That's, it's a positive thing. But the intrinsic motivation of, doing it for yourself, doing it for fun, and even just, doing it to improve yourself as opposed to improving yourself to get the results. I think that's, it's a really, really good message to get out to people, that, like, doing it for fun doesn't mean that you don't want to win. You know what I mean? Like, the motivation could be there for results or without the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's quite important for a lot of the youngsters, because there is only one winner, right? So there's maybe like I don't know, some of these motocross events, you'll have let's say 8 classes, all with 40 riders each, and only 8 winners. So you've got another 240 guys that if they're just focused on winning, they're all going home disappointed. Well, focus on having a good time and doing the best you can and going as fast as you can. And hey, if you win, absolutely celebrate it. It's a great feeling, but just enjoy the ride as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously with the Ride Off Road Scotland, you get to give people advice on how to start the sport. So what advice would you give to someone who's just coming into the sport, or who's thinking about joining the sport? What would you say to them as a rider and as a coach?
I think absolutely. I'm obviously biased, but the best way to spend your money is on a coach. You can have the best bike and all the best kit, but without the skills and the technique, it's not gonna happen. So if you can get that, that's something that you've got for the rest of your life. So it's just to me, it's a no-brainer. It's a sound investment. You pay that money once, and you've got that for the rest of your life. That skill, that step up. You put a new tire on, or you put a new carburetor on, and you've maybe got that for 6 months or whatever, however long that bit of kit lasts, and then you change bikes and you have to spend more money. But the money that you spend on coaching, you've always got that with you. So I think, and also that ties in with the safety side of things. A lot of people start out and have a fall or an injury just because there's a lot of things that they don't know, that, and you don't know what you don't know, it's crazy. So you maybe think that you've got the whole picture, and then you're introduced to another part of the sport. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that existed, another series or another discipline or whatever. So just tapping into someone else that's already got that knowledge, it saves you learning the hard way, I think. So yeah, learn from somebody else that's already made the mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I've heard from numerous rider coaches in the past, is that, their initial intervention into someone's career, it might not be for seconds or tenths of a second, it'll just be for safety alone. You might not go any faster in the first couple of sessions, but the way that you're riding will be so much more safe that your percentage of likelihood of crashing has been reduced by so much. So no, definitely, I would definitely agree that speaking to someone who knows what they're doing and someone who can relay that information to you properly so that you understand it is definitely an important way to start. And then obviously contacting the governing body, SACU, to get into the sport if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even have to be like me, obviously a professional coach, but it doesn't have to be. It can be, go to the practice track and get friendly with some other families and get involved with other people that are riding, that have got experience, and learn from them. But definitely, just going out and having a go on your own in that sort of little isolation, I don't know, I think you're kind of asking for trouble. You do it like that.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think it's a very difficult thing to do on your own. So just very quickly, what does your weekly timetable look like? Like prior to coronavirus, and now that we're kind of coming out of it, what does your timetable look like in regards to your coaching and your training for what you're achieving this year?
Yeah, so difficult at the minute to kind of put a program together, right? Because it's all just sort of up in the air. Prior to the business starting, I was and I don't know, 3-4 hours commuting on a Monday morning, staying away at the office all week, and then back on a Friday, and then just sort of hanging out with the family at the weekend, and didn't do any riding, or not much anyway. Then started the business, and I was trying to get together the venues and some footage to put on the website and photos. So spent a lot more time on the bike, and managed to get my dad back into riding again. So I spent a lot of time riding bikes with my dad, which is cool. Got him out coaching again as well. So really good to see him and his fitness and his health's coming on leaps and bounds, because same as me, he's just been working away and not doing much exercise or sport. So that's been really cool. Got 3 kids at home, so they sort of dominate a lot of the time when I'm not working and not training. So it's trying to do a lot of little activities and sport with them, and like just silly things like running around the garden or going out for little cycle rides and stuff to keep a little bit of fitness on. But out on the bike or coaching, instructing, it's usually 4 days a week. And I've usually Monday off to regroup, wash the bikes, get the kit sorted. Tuesdays back, normally motocross coaching in the evenings for our evening school that we do. Wednesday's an experience day, so it's normally out with the higher bikes. Thursday, I was doing enduro schools. We just stopped them because it's so busy. Then it's a turnaround day again, and then this Friday is 1-to-1, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday I'll be coaching on the higher bikes again. So it's like just try to steal little bits of time to stay on top of the other tasks that go with running a business, advertising, running a website, Facebook page, all the social media side. There's not much spare time. So a couple of training sessions a week as well, just like interval training or CrossFit stuff. Try to keep my hand in on that. I'd like to spend more, but I think once I get into a business routine, I'll be able to dedicate each morning or some time each day for that.
I mean, like the thing is, there's no thing like bike fitness, is there? I mean, like the fact that you're out on a bike, whether it be going slow, teaching people, or whatever it may be, being out on a bike in some one form or another is going to help in the long run when it comes to 2023 especially. I mean, if you're on a bike every other day of the week, in your coaching role or in training for yourself, it's going to help so much. So no, it's a good insight as well as to how busy it is and how busy your week is, as well as trying to fit in everything else that you've got, especially with like a family, 3 children, and trying to balance it all must be really, really difficult, but it must be one of the most rewarding things as well.
Yeah, it's been really good. I'd say taking people that have never ridden before is probably one of the most satisfying things, because it's as you know, it's a really, really addictive sport. Just the way that we connect with the bike and feel the ground moving around underneath you, the acceleration, and it also, I think it requires like a hyper focus. So you forget about everything else. It's like all, if you've got any issues, troubles, worries, they go, and you focus on going forward and just what the bike's doing around you. So it's an opportunity for you to just live in the moment, and we don't get to do that very often.
It's definitely a huge release, I think, as well. When you're out on the track, like you say, I mean, that hyper focus you need to hit every apex or to make sure you hit every line. You can't mimic that in any other way. I mean, I've never been able to do any other sport that you completely takes your mind off everything. But like you say, I mean, we're biased folk are going to be thinking, they're just trying to get us into this sport. But no, honestly, like there is no other sport like it. So yeah, we'll quickly finish off with some quick fire questions. So the first one we'll start off with was, who was your biggest inspiration in the sport? Whether it be a rider, whether it be a family member, who was your biggest motivation to start with?
Absolutely, my dad. Yeah. So he's a hard working guy. Really committed to whatever he puts his mind to. And I actually felt like I was, even at 10 years old, I actually felt like I was kind of intruding on his sport by saying that I wanted to do it at times, because he retired in 91, and that's, to allow me to start the racing. And I think with the because he was enduro and I was motocross, that's the way it kind of worked. There was a bit of an overlap, because he would do the odd motocross race at that point as well. So, but yeah, definitely. I think quite often I think, what would my dad do? But, yeah.
I think that that's such a positive thing as well. Having a family member who does the sport, as well as having them there to motivate you, having their experience there to grapple onto, and like you say, thinking like, what would he do? What's the right decision here? And having that kind of in the background to make sure that you are doing the right thing is such a positive thing. My dad raced as well. I'm in the exact same boat. My granddad and my dad both raced at the Scottish Championship level and at the British Championship level as well. And it's like one of those things where you, for myself anyway, you strive to get better than what they were, and I think that's a really positive thing as well. That little bit of kind of competition within the family, and obviously they're there to guide you along the way.
Yeah, and I think it gives us a little bit of an excuse as well. Say, well, it's in my blood, so I'm off racing.
Absolutely. So moving from motocross to enduro, you can choose whichever one you like. What's been your favourite, your favourite course or your favourite track, or even your favourite experience so far? I mean, I'm assuming that if we speak to you in a couple of years' time, it will 100% be the Dakar. But from now, in motocross and enduro, what's been your favourite track or your favourite course so far?
I suppose I've not really mentioned trials as well. I do a fair bit of trials riding. Really enjoy the trials, and I actually think the trials has probably maybe had the biggest impact on my riding, because it's all slow technical stuff. You've got to be 100% with it. So some of the learning stuff that I've taken from that to the enduro has been really cool. But I guess I did an event that was Dirt 321. It was a bit of a combination event. So we done a sprint enduro, a supercross, and an enduro cross. Very, very, very memorable event, that one. Doing the supercross on an enduro bike was interesting, because I had the fully soft suspension for it, and so any kind of slight over jump or coming up short a little bit, and the suspension's wham, really bottoming out. So I felt like on that one I had to be really careful, but yeah, really cool. That was down at Doncaster, I think, Fat Cats. So that was a really, really good event. But probably my favourite would be Brazil, when I was in the British junior team, and I was riding with Stefan Everts and US Salmon, 2 world champions, and I was just a kid on my 450, riding with these guys across and right up a desert. We started down at the beach on that event, and one of the days we right up in a banana plantation right up in the mountains, and you're all against the clock. So although I wasn't, I guess I wasn't competitive against Mr. Everts, I got to ride alongside him, and I overtook him quite a few times on the course, and just really sort of riding along. Am I really riding next to Stefan Everts? That was really cool. And then I ended up in the same final. At the end of the week, you have a final motocross, so I ended up in the same final with him as well. That was really cool. And I finished top Brit at that event, so that was really smart.
Yeah, it's almost like that you think, I'm there, I've made it, I've almost made it. So can you tell us an interesting fact about yourself that nobody would know?
I don't know, related to racing. I guess I won a grass track championship way back in the youth days. And outside of racing, maybe I think the guys that are closer to me know, because I talk about it quite a lot, is that I worked on the land speed record car, 1,000-mile-an-hour car with a jet engine and a rocket, which is obviously a really cool job.
That is pretty cool. That, yeah, that's if I would be the exact same. I mean, I wouldn't be able to stop talking about that. That's really cool. From a racing point of view and from a coaching point of view, or even from a life point of view, to be honest, what would you say the one word is that describes you best and across all those areas?
Determined.
That's been a pretty thingy answer across the board. Like motivated, determined, something like that. Where I think we've had that twice or 3 times now. So no, definitely. I mean, I think you kind of need to be in doing what we do. I think you need to be determined. You need to have a really high level of resilience to get to where we get to. On top of bike racing and trials, enduro, motocross, what other hobbies do you have? Do you have any other hobbies outside of motorsport, or is it just all motorsport?
Well, I like to follow the racing as well. Outside of motorsport, I tell you, when I was in the army, I did a couple of tours in Iraq and a couple in Afghan, and got to mix with some guys that nothing to do with racing. And one of the common interests I struck up was just similar types of music and that sort of thing. And one of the guys that I was on tour with, he was a really, really good musician and kind of natural singer. He was a lead singer in the unit band. And I said to him, I really, really wanted to learn guitar, but never felt like I had the chance, kind of thing. So when we got back, he gave me his old guitar when we got back from Iraq. So yeah, I'm definitely not a natural, and I quite often get asked to stop, but I do really enjoy playing the guitar as well.
No, that's really good. That's the thing. Like with any sport, you can be like uber concentrated, and sometimes you need something a wee bit left field to distract you from this as well. Because it does get very a lot sometimes, doesn't it? It can sometimes get a wee bit too much if you're focusing solely on one thing. So having that wee bit of a release from something else, and to be honest, for oh sorry, what was that?
Definitely, it's consuming, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like even for some people, that change is a different discipline. You know what I mean? Some people think, oh, I'm focusing too much on this, so I'll go and ride a motocross bike, or I'll go and do this just to keep on riding a bike because that's what they love, but it's not exactly what they're like focusing on. So no, it's really good that you need to have something else on top of it, or you don't need to, but it sometimes helps to have something else on top of it. Just really quickly, do you want to plug any social media again? Do you want to just remind everybody about the website, how to get in touch with yourself, how to get in touch about helping the Dakar team, or even when we post this, I'll post the link to the document that you sent me, telling everybody about the whole team, things like that, and what you're doing. But if you want to just plug your social media and website and everything like that.
Yeah, so I guess what I'd really like to promote is the Project Dakar. And we've got a bit of a message on that, and so we've got hashtag because I can, and the message is sort of centered around just dealing with adversity and overcoming challenges, and we've actually visited a couple of schools just to talk about overcoming challenges. And I think sometimes, especially with the pandemic, you maybe look at things and just think, actually beyond my reach, how am I going to get there? And we use climbing Everest as an example. For me, I've no mountaineering experience, but if I wanted to climb Everest, then I'd need to get some lessons. So start with that, and that's a small task. I can achieve that, and so job done. Get some lessons, and the same for anything. So you start breaking things down and find manageable chunks, and hopefully we can just inspire some of the kids that are going through hard times to take on their own little chunks and make steps towards whatever their goals are. So I think we'd love to get that message out to more people. So if people can share the Project Dakar because I can, we've got a Facebook page on that, and that really help us. Join the club as well. We've started a club, so we're hoping that we can put on some entry-level events. We'll try to get some forestry land just to put on some gravel roads, kind of rally days, or just things that people that haven't got any serious off-road experience can just come and have a go. So I think if we can get that out there, and the club's called the BIC Rally Club, and it's because I can. So we want to say, why you going to take on that challenge? Well, because I can, and I really want to. So just you don't need an excuse. You don't need a reason. Go and just do it if you want to do it. So we're trying to push that forward. But part of that comes, with supporting Ride Off Road Scotland as well, and helping that grow. So rideoffroadscotland.co.uk. Have a look on there. We've got I've got an events page on one of the tabs with our calendar in there, so you can have a look through and see if there's any dates that you want to come ride. We've got some new venues that we're going to use. So we've got a partnership with Crieff Hydro, big hotel. It's right next to the motorway, so and sort of centrally located. So we're going to take the bikes up there. They've got an old quarry up there that we can use. And there's all the other activities there as well. So perfect to take the family and nip off and get a couple of hours riding in and get some instruction while the family are maybe horse riding or on, crazy golf or whatever. There's all the other activities there. So we're hoping that we can let people, not just guys that are, focused, or I guess it's geared towards more like making it accessible. So if you're struggling for places to go, give us a shout. you know, we can maybe help, or we can maybe put you in touch with the right people, and hopefully we'll help the sport grow and just make it easier to get in and go ride, get out on your bike.
Absolutely, it sounds amazing, and I can't wait to see it, you know, like grow even bigger than what it is just now, because you know, that entry into the sport is a big problem in our sport. So now the fact that you're doing it, I think that the sport in, you know, years to come will definitely be thanking Ride Off Road Scotland. So no, definitely, if anybody wants to get in touch with yourself, to go and give it a go. I mean, it's like there's no reason not to. Sometimes, you know what I mean. Sometimes I think that people look for a reason, like, oh, I couldn't do it because of this, couldn't do it because of that. Our sport is one of the most inclusive sports that there is. You know, there's nothing that stops you from doing it, or there's very little that stops you from doing it. So definitely get in touch, even direct with yourself, or if you want to speak to the SACU and that they can put you in touch with yourself, then, you know, there's loads and loads of ways to get into it. So no, definitely, I think it's been a really good conversation that we've had today. I think that there's been so many different avenues that you've taken that you can offer to people, and the different motivation types as well. I think it's been really important, because the motivation types we've had in the past, like I say, have all been kind of extrinsic motivated, you know, wanting to win, wanting to, you know, get the trophies, wanting the bragging rights. But, you know, sometimes it's nice just to do it for you, and I think that's a really, really good message.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Callum. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll catch you next time. Hopefully, if we're still going in a couple of years' time, we'll get a post-Dakar interview as well, which will be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, no, definitely. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Maybe we'll go and inspire more people to chase after that Dakar, whatever that is for them. So.
Absolutely. Right. As we said, or as your hashtag says, you know, because I can. Why not? That's the best way to do it, isn't it? Just because you can.
Yeah. Right, Callum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.